As a Christian, what do you believe your greatest fear is?
Arise now, O Lord, lift up your hand. O God, who remembers all the poor. Why do you stand, powerful Lord, hiding yourself in our times of distress? The wicked in pride seek to wrong the poor. Let them be caught in their own scheming nets. The wicked man boasts of his heart's desire. The greedy man curses and spurns the Lord.
Hello, my friend. Glad to see you made it. Glory be to God. Jesus Christ is alive. And by the power of his good name, he has gathered us together here today. And yes, he's coming soon. Fear. What's the greatest fear a Christian has today? It's probably the fulfillment of the book of Revelation. In the midst of our generation. Maybe. Maybe we have other fears. Like paying our rent. We have some other kind of fears, like the well-being of our family members. Or maybe our fear is only finding our next meal. So we see, especially today. Today we're going over Psalm 10. Great psalm. It really applies to our life. The Psalm 10 has been mentioned all throughout the Bible. Everything right here in Psalm 10. And we're going to see it. I'm going to bring it out. I hope we've got enough time within our hour. And welcome to the Gospel Hour with David, by the way. We're going to get through it. It's written all over in here. It's a great warning. It's a great message for us today in this last generation. That's the thing is, why do we believe we are the last generation or one of the last generations to come to God? Well, it's the fulfillment of his word. What are we finding out as Christians? I think it is, we fear the word of God. We fear God. I fear God. I fear God. There's one verse that it brings trembling to my heart and soul. And do I believe I am lost? Do I believe I'm not saved? And no. Being in the hand of God is a trembling thing. Will I find you doing what a good servant does when I return? Right? Will he find us? What will he? If Jesus returned right now, today, what would he find? What would he find? Would he find faithfulness? Would he find love? So, as Christians, we see the beast system, the whole beast system, and that system being put into place, trying to put it into place throughout the world, and there's still a group of Americans and Israelites who believe they are free men and women. Christians believe they are free. So let's get into Psalm 10 here, because we've got a lot to talk about. And so with all that on our mind, the pandemic and all that false propaganda that's being pumped into us today by the power of the web, the World Wide Web, kind of gathers us together as one being, one person, one humanity. I think that's why a lot of people especially Christians, are being so boisterous. YouTube and many other social media outlets. We want the world to know that we are good human beings. We are good people. And we're no different than you. No different than you. Let's get into this. This is what we're going to see. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. Why, O Lord, do you stand far off? Why do you hide yourself in times of trouble? In arrogance, the wicked hotly pursue the poor. Let them be caught in the schemes that they have devised. Now remember, in the book of Revelation, the mark of the beast, anyone who doesn't bow down to the beast's name, to its image, to its mark, or its number, right? Anyone doesn't bow down to that ain't going to receive food, and it's going to come into the world through the power of deception, deceiving each and every one of us. Seeking and trying to turn away God's chosen people away from the truth, away from sanity, away from Jesus Christ. And we see the New World Order, the mass order, that's all New World Order, nothing to do with America, has nothing to do with the protection of your health. It has everything to do with in placing a new world law and rule, which is designed to take away your freedom and eventually your religion, your faith in God. It's an attack against humanity and God Himself. Listen to this. For the wicked boasts of the desires of his soul, and the one greedy for gain curses and renounces the Lord. Greedy for gain, cursing and renouncing the Lord. First thing communism does is want to renounce the Lord. You know, that Jesus fella, he's nobody. Greedy for gain. Even if you gained the whole world and all the resources of it, and in doing so you lost your soul, what have you gained? Right? And the beast eventually is going to be thrown down, his image, his name, his mark, all that's going to be cast down into the lake of fire. No longer able to torment the men and women of this world. He goes on to say, in the pride of his face, the wicked does not seek him. And seek the Lord. All his thoughts are, there is no God. There is no God. I was had an interesting conversation with one of my son's friends the other day, and he was talking about how, the New World Health Order and Bill Gates and them, they just want to extend your life, They're trying to come up with all these medicines and everything, and they're doing good for you, man. They care about your well-being. They want to see you live to be 120, 140. Can you believe it? There'll come that day when medicine has arrived and will overcome our sicknesses. And man, we could live like hundreds of years. And I had to stop him and say, son, don't you believe you're an eternal being now? Don't you believe you have eternal life now? And so what's driving the fear behind the mask, the coronavirus, the vaccinations, and thinking that we're going to come up with some medicine that's going to keep all of us from becoming sick? And even we're at the point right now that fear is so high. Fear is so high that we want to make people into criminals who are not sick. That the people who are not sick, you're like criminals because you walk around acting as though you are not sick. You don't wear masks. You're not afraid. You stay out of my store. You cannot eat here. Cannot receive any of the food grown or produced, and get out. Treating the healthy like they're criminals. And then if you got sick, oh, now I have the right to treat you like a criminal for getting me sick. Because in all of their thoughts, there is no God. His ways prospers at all times. Your judgments are on high, out of his sight for all his foes. He puffs at them, or sneers at them, or mocks them, tries to curse his foes. So like we see Antifa, we see the Democratic Party, which is Antifa, all the news channels. I don't care if it's your local news or NBC, ABC, whatever, they're owned by the super PACs who are buying our congressmen. We see it all coming together. We see what they're doing, how they're doing it, how are they trying to ensnare everyone. He says in his heart, I shall not be moved. Throughout all generations, I shall not meet adversary. Right? We look today, America, and how the prosperity teaching of the gospel, right? As though being in the midst of your adversary, being afflicted by the pains and the sufferings of your adversary is like outside of God's will. It's kind of like in the book of Revelations, as Jesus even said to us, in the book of Matthew and book of Luke, all of them. He says, now that I'm going to tell you exactly what it's going to be like. And so when it happens, you'll know what to do. You'll know how to react. You will know you're still inside of God's plan. You're inside of God's will. And you're okay. And you're okay. But many people, do everything they can to avoid the adversary. Yet even Job was met by the adversary. Here's the most righteous of men. Jesus, the most holy of men. Our Lord, the God of gods. Lord of all, was again placed in the midst of his adversary. He sits in ambush in the villages, in hiding places. He murders the innocent. Right? It's kind of like Gates Foundation. As they sit in hiding, they sit all protected and wonderful, and then distributing out vaccinations to people all across the world, crippling them, creating autism, creating all kinds and sorts of health problems for humanity, because Bill Gates believes the answer to the world's problem is depopulation through vaccination. Depopulation through vaccination. And why is everybody so upset? Why is everybody so frustrated? Why is everybody going around and wondering, is God got a hand in this? Is he going to do something? What is he going to do? Just allow our enemy to grow and grow and grow until we're completely wiped off the face of the earth? Don't you care about our families and the things that are going on? Don't you care that, millions upon millions upon millions of people have lost their jobs because the United States of America said to the UN, said to China, we're not for sale. We're free and we choose to remain free. And all the problems that had just arisen out of nowhere, thin air, just a days after the president says this. His mouth is filled with cursing and deceit and oppression. Under his tongue are mischief and iniquity. He sits in ambush in the villages. In hiding places, he murders the innocent. Also, look at all the people who are hiding under fake identities, fake names, fake profiles, right? And they come in only to kind of murder the innocent, murdering the innocent's character through slander, gossip. Seek only to murder the children of God, the preachers and teachers of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Right now there's this thing going on, and you know when you're talking to an Antifa agent, it is when they try to convince everybody around them that the Christian are crazy and insane. It is the Christian who is enslaving the people, harming them, saying that freedom is war and war is peace. Don't even make sense in any of the stuff they say or what they're doing. And if he said no to them, just like if he said no to China, you said no to the UN, you said no to the New World Order, you said no to the vaccines, you will experience the wrath of what they say is God. And it is the wrath that is stored up within their own heart. Because from the heart flows the truth. Flows the truth. I know for a fact in my life, I've gotten into some great arguments with people. And I've never gotten into great arguments with good people, but usually bad people with a mischievous heart. And as a Christian, I'm sick and tired of these bullies coming in, trying to bully Christians and make Christians look bad and make it look like we're not allowed to get angry or upset or tell them no, or to tell them to stop, or to say to them, you can have your ideas and your opinions, but I care not to listen to them, nor give to them any authority. Any authority. Kind of like, instead of going to the grocery store, we start growing our own food instead of taking, your meat to a Chinese-owned processing plant. You start processing your own meat. That's the thing. That's the thing. Everybody seeks another man's life rather than another man's well-being. His eyes stealthily watch for the helpless. He lurks in ambush like a lion in the thicket. He lurks that he may seize the poor. He seizes the poor when he draws him into his net. And so we see as communism, if you go back, read the book 1984 or another book, the farm. You got all the farm story told in kind of a parable way. That what are they doing? Getting the poor to see the rich as being enemies. Seeing the people who are self-sustained, living as according to the ordinances of the Bible, they're becoming the enemy because they're oppressing us. Yet, and the truth is, what we've sown, we shall reap. And what's oppressing us is ourselves. Our unbelief is oppressing us. But we see they trying to play with people's emotions through propaganda on the internet, the World Wide Web, turning each person against each other. You know, they want to seize the poor. I truly believe over the next 5 years it's going to be shit here in America. Because I believe Trump will be reelected. It will be for the good of the Christian and the believer. But they're going to drag this on, this pain, this suffering, so that when Trump is at the end of his presidency, that they want it to be that all the people and all the poor and everybody's crying out for a savior, and they're going to give you one. They're going to give you one. And he's probably going to turn against you the same way Hitler turned against humanity. The helpless are crushed, sink down, and fall by his might. He says in his heart, God has forgotten. He has hidden his face. He will never see it. Arise, O Lord, O God. Lift up your hand and forget not the afflicted. Why does the wicked renounce God and say in his heart, you will not call to account? But you do see, for you note mischief and vexation, that you may take it into your hands. To you the helpless commits himself. You have been the helper of the fatherless. Break the arm of the wicked and evildoer. Call his wickedness to account till you find none. The Lord is king forever and ever. The nations perish from his land. O Lord, you hear the desire of the afflicted. You will strengthen their heart. You will incline your ear to do justice to the fatherless and the oppressed, so that the man who is of the earth may strike terror no more. The people of the earth are trying to strike us with terror, fear, COVID, right? Now, this verse, these verses are all over it in the Bible. And let's see what Isaiah has to say. Isaiah chapter 41, verse 9. Let's go back verse 8. But you, Israel, my servant Jacob, whom I have chosen, the offspring of Abraham, my friend. You whom I took from the ends of the earth and called from the farthest corners, saying to you, you are my servant. I have chosen you and not cast you off. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will hold you up with my right hand. Behold, all who are incensed against you shall be put to shame and confounded. Those who strive against you shall be as nothing and shall perish. You shall seek those who contend with you, but you shall not find them. Those who war against you shall be as nothing at all. For I, the Lord your God, hold your right hand. It is I who say to you, fear not. I am the one who helps you. Fear not, you worm, Jacob, you men of Israel. I am the one who helps you, declares the Lord. Your Redeemer is the Holy One of Israel. So what's the problem with the pandemic and the fear of it? What's the problem with the New World Order, the UN, and being afraid of them? What's the problem? We don't believe God is with us. That's the problem. We don't believe God is with us. That's the problem. And thereby, they are in complete fear and confusion, so afraid they probably don't even know who they can trust to even vote for. Because that spirit of discernment is lost in a place of confusion. They don't believe. And what does God say? I chose you. And here we are in the last generation, in the midst of the unveiling of the revelation of Jesus Christ there in the book of Revelation. It's all being unveiled. It's all being revealed. It's all being manifested. He says here, Ezekiel chapter 8, it says, Then he said to me, Son of man, have you seen what the elders of the house of Israel are doing in the dark, each in his room of pictures? Each in his own room of pictures. We got our cell phones, our computers, and we're so locked within our own room, our own bubble, our own world. We're right there in it. We have somebody sitting here. We have somebody sitting there. We have 5 people at the table all sitting here, all looking in their room of pictures. For they say, the Lord does not see us. Right? How many people with their fake identities, fake avatars online, causing problems and strife? And the Lord does not see us. The Lord has forsaken the land. He said also to me, you will see greater abominations that they commit. Now have you read all of chapter 7 and chapter 8? Ezekiel? And you look at what Antifa's doing, looking at this communist takeover from a foreign entity, the UN, trying to take over America by the power of siege right now. It's all under siege. Seized our work, seized our food, seized our medicine. Everything's shut down. If you read all this, you'd come to say that, holy cow, maybe we're in the midst of this. Then he brought me to the entrance of the north gate of the house of the Lord. And behold, there sat a woman weeping for Tammuz. Then he said to me, have you seen this, O Son of Man? You will still see greater abominations than these. And what's oppressing us? What's depressing us? I don't believe it. Why am I weeping and gnashing of the teeth? Don't believe it. Trust me, silver and gold have no value right now. And nobody on earth gives a crap at how much gold or silver they can accumulate right now. The only thing that has value: do I have a home over my head? Do I have food in my belly? And is my family protected? That has value. Let's move on. Again, Micah chapter 5, verse 8. And the remnant of Jacob shall be among the nations, in the midst of the people, like a lion among the beasts of the forest, like a young lion among the flock of sheep, which, when it treads down, and tears to pieces, and there is none to deliver. And here we are, the remnant of Jacob, the offspring of Abraham, because the offspring of Abraham is the seed of Jesus Christ. And it was by the seed of Jesus Christ we've all been produced. And yet, here we are. We're in the midst of it. And it's as though there was none to deliver. Your hand shall be lifted up over your adversaries. All your enemies shall be cut off. And in that day, declares the Lord, I will cut off your horses from among you and will destroy your chariots. And I will cut off the cities of your land and throw down all your strongholds. I will cut off sorcerers from your land, from your hand, and you shall have no more tellers of fortune. I will cut off your carved images and your pillars from among you, and you shall bow down no more to the works of your hands. And I will root out your Asherah images from among you and destroy your cities. And in anger and wrath, I will execute vengeance on the nations that did not obey me. And Jesus says, well, why are we being punished? Because you did not believe in God's one and only Son. They're still being punished. Still being punished. Now listen. Now listen here. Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 13. You went out for the salvation of your people, for the salvation of your anointed. You crushed the head of the house of the wicked, laying him bare from the thigh to the neck. You pierced with his own arrows the head of his warriors, who came like a whirlwind to scatter me, rejoicing as if to devour the poor in secret. You trampled the sea with your horses and surging of mighty waters. I hear, and my body trembles. My lips quiver at the sound. Rottenness enters into my bones. My legs tremble beneath me. Yet I will quietly wait for the day of trouble to come upon people who invade us. Though the fig tree should not blossom, nor fruit be on the vines, the produce of the olive fail, and the fields yield no food, the flock be cut off from the fold, and there be no herd in the stall. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will take joy in the God of my salvation. God, the Lord, is my strength. He makes my feet like the deer's feet. He makes me tread on high places. You know, that's the thing. What's the escape from the beast system? What's the answer? Christ in me. Who will overcome this world? He who believes. Christ in us, right? Tore down Jesus. Thought they were doing God a favor. And yet, like Jesus says, the bread is broken and fed to the many. He breaks himself for the salvation of many, for the redemption of many. Giving a piece of himself to each of us. And then being scattered out amongst the world. And then at the end time, at the last days, being regathered together by the power of spirit, not might, not army, not by the power of men, but by the power of his own spirit. Gather together like-minded people who cherish family, cherish honesty. Because when they care about their family, they know you care about your family. And together, we protect each other's families. The earth will produce food and animals and that. The grocery store may not. But the farmers will, the people will. And because they have the Spirit of God within them, they're producing and growing this food for the well-being of all their neighbors. All their neighbors. And we don't need a communist government to control over what we're doing and telling us what to do and how to do it. We have the Spirit of the living God holding us by our right hand, directing our steps. He says, Romans chapter 3, verse 3, what if some were unfaithful? Does their faithlessness nullify the faithfulness of God? By no means. Let God be true, though everyone were a liar, as it is written, that you may be justified in your words and prevail when you are judged. But if your righteousness serves to show the righteousness of your unrighteousness, serves to show the righteousness of God, what shall we say? That God is unrighteous to inflict wrath on us? I speak in a human way. By no means. For how could God judge the world? But if through my lie God's truth abounds to his glory, why am I still being condemned as a sinner? And why not do evil that good may come? As people slanderously charge us with saying, their own condemnation is just. Do evil so salvation makes it? So God has something to forgive? God forbid. What then? Are we Jews any better off? Not at all. For we have already charged that all, both Jews and Greek, are under sin, as it is written. None is righteous, no, not one. No one understands, no one seeks for God. All have turned aside. Together they have become worthless. No one does good, not even one. Their throat is an open grave. They use their tongues to deceive. The venom of asp is under their lips. Their mouths is full of curses and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. In their paths are ruin and misery. How about the rioters, guys? If we looked into the cities, and what did they leave? Ruin and misery. Christians are out creating homesteads so that they can be self-sustained, removing themselves from the mark of the beast, from the beast system. We don't want to go to your store. Don't worry about it. We will survive without you. Create families, farms, stores, while the others who have the venom of asp upon their lips leave nothing but destruction behind. And a way of peace they have not known, for there is no fear of God before their eyes. And I gotta admit, I've been pretty mean to some people who were very mean to me. Repaying evil with evil. And I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to be that guy anymore. Now that I can see the man of perdition, my own flesh, warring against the Spirit of God, my own unbelief warring against God's faithfulness. I don't want to war anymore. I just want to surrender. Because surely God is going to lead me into a place filled with green pastures. And I believe He will, because God said I will do it. I'm waiting. In the same way, I believe I'll live in the house of the Lord forever because God said I will. And I believe it. God said one day I will restore your temple, your tabernacle, and I believe it. Because I believe God is with us. Now we know that whatever the law says, it speaks to those who are under the law, so that every mouth may be stopped and the whole world may be held accountable to God. For by the works of the law, no human being will be justified in the sight of God, since through the law comes knowledge of sin. But now the righteousness of God has been manifested apart from the law, although the law and the prophets bear witness to it. The righteousness of God through faith in Jesus Christ for all who believe. For all who believe. Not because you were good, but because you believed. Chapter 18, the book of Revelations. We're going to finish up right here. Everyone and anyone who hears the prophecies spoken in this book are blessed. Chapter 18, verse 2. Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling place for demons, a haunt for every unclean spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, a haunt for every unclean and detestable beast. For all nations have drunk the wine of her passion, the wine of her passion, of her sexual immorality. The kings of the earth have committed immorality with her, and the merchants of the earth have grown rich from the power of her luxurious living. Then I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, lest you take part in her sins, lest you share in her plagues. For her sins are heaped up as high as heaven, and God has remembered her iniquity. Pay her back as she herself has paid others back, and repay her double for her deeds. Mix a double portion for her in the cup she mixed, as she glorified herself and lived in luxury. So give her like measurement of torment and mourning, since in her heart she says, I sit as a queen, I am no widow, and mourning I shall never see. For this reason her plagues will come in a single day, and death, and mourning, and famine, and she will be burned up with fire. For mighty is the Lord who has judged her." So as we see today, in the same way the United States, the Union, went out to conquer and kill all the Native Americans and any Southerners that rose up to separate from the Union, died. So now the Communist Union, the UN, United Nations, are coming to pour out upon the United States of America all the wrath that they had poured out. And even though it was our grandfathers and our fathers who poured out the wrath of Satan onto the Native Americans, it will be the wrath of God that is later poured out on us, so that God can remain holy. So God can remain holy? Yeah. So God can remain holy. One death, one Spirit, one God, one salvation, one life, one way, one Son, one body, one baptism. Jesus Christ. Christ crucified. Christ crucified. Right? As God has said, have I not chosen you to be my servant? Serve my will. Jesus was so obedient to God's will. He even subjected himself to death, and not just death, but death upon a cross. Obedient to the will of God. And this is the will of God, that none would perish and all would come to repentance through Jesus Christ. And this is not a work of your own. Rather, this is the work of God, displaying his love for an believing people.
Why do you stand so far away? This troubled day, why the wicked in pride pursuing the weak, catch them in the schemes they devise. The wicked boasting there is no God. Let their own words condemn them. Let their own words condemn them. Arise, Lord my God. Lift up your head, don't forget the humble, who dwell in the land. Don't forget the wicked, despising God in their heart, thinking no one can judge them. But you see, all you will repay. God's people will perish. The nations without you vanish. You know the hopes of all the poor. You answer their cries with comfort. Justice will come for fatherless ones. You bring to an end oppression.